The World Bank has issued 2 reports on the economic condition of women. The timing of this is no coincidence, designed to draw attention to the issue ahead of the United Nations Conference on Women about to begin in Beijing. The main point seems to be that investing in women is not a possible option, but an essential condition for future global economic development. As Tony McMahon reports on the attempts to redress the balance.
Women have long been the backbone of many economies, but according to 2 new reports from the World Bank, they're not getting paid their due. One report on public policy says governments must invest more in their female populations, while the other explains how World Bank projects have helped women. But both reports conclude that women still lag behind men. They receive less education than their male counterparts. Women's wages are 60 to 70% of men's on average, and they are less likely to be found at the top of companies than men.
Economic development and poverty reduction cannot be accomplished by governments without bringing women into the development process, and that is roughly half the population of the developing countries. You cannot ignore them if you are serious about economic development and poverty reduction.
The bank says that poverty is being feminized, with women denied access to the services they need and productive assets. The World Bank, which at present has an internal recruitment program to hire more women, says an increasing amount of its lending addresses gender-related issues.
Annually, the bank spends about $3.5 billion investing in women, in education, in health, in nutrition, in agriculture, in water supply and sanitation.
To many women, the World Bank may seem an unlikely champion of their rights, but as the UN conference gets underway in Beijing, bank chiefs want to get the message across that when it comes to removing the economic reasons for women's oppression, the World Bank believes it can lead the way forward.
Well, joining me now to discuss why the World Bank has decided to highlight women in the economy is Dr. Sylvia Chant, who is a lecturer at the London School of Economics. Dr. Chant, why is the World Bank claiming now to target women and talking about investing in them?
Well, in fact, women as an untapped resource was first recognised back in the 1970s and very rapidly taken on by the American development community, particularly USAID and the Harvard Institute of International Development. But I think women's importance to economic development has been highlighted during the last 10 to 15 years of recession and structural adjustment in developing countries, during which time there's been a rolling back of the state and a shift, if you like, from consumption to investment, and a shift in the burden of reproductive labour from the paid to the unpaid sector. And several studies have shown that it's actually women who are footing the bill here.
So who is the World Bank actually aiming this report at? Well,
the World Bank is aiming to improve the condition of women. There is no doubt about that, and there's some very encouraging signs in its document, Advancing Gender Inequality from Concept to Action. The problem is that women are being targeted in such a way that their needs are not being so met as much of the needs of wider society, of children, of future generations. And in fact, many of the bank's assumptions about women are that women are mothers and housewives, and their arguments of economic efficiency are effectively that if you target resources through women in these roles, you will benefit women and children. So they talk about the returns from investing in women's education, the returns from investing in women's healthcare, and in fact some of their documentation talks about the payoffs from investing in women. But the trouble is that women are actually being seen as vehicles for the development of others rather than as individuals in their own right.
So very briefly, give me an example of what the World Bank is actually doing and its results.
Well, traditionally, the World Bank has actually been targeting women through population, nutrition, education schemes and so on, where women have been seen very much as mothers and as not as individuals who participate in the labour market. More recently, there have been changes, and in fact, one of the major projects that the World Bank are doing in the last couple of years has been a project in Bolivia for integrated child services, which has opened daycare centres in something like 34 cities in Bolivia and benefited something like 60,000 poor children. And the main reason for that is to allow women better access to the labour market. So I think there's some very encouraging signs in the concept to action document. One of the unfortunate things is that the bank is not recognising that women's unpaid labour is increasing as a result of structural adjustment policies, which it is still failing to gender.
Dr. Chant, thank you. Stocks in the US ended the day's trading mostly up, but all taking place on a fairly quiet day on Wall Street. Some dealers even described the atmosphere as lacklustre, winding down ahead of next Monday's Labor Day holiday. But as Daniel Jeffries reports once again, there may be some good news ahead for the economy.
It seems the people who collect
Though they acknowledge there's been a plague outbreak, these doctors believe stories have been exaggerated. They say the plague was confined to Surat and other areas of India are safe.
Yeah, it's international.